Senator Alex Padilla, I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your heads off.
How many of our ICE agents have been doxxed? How they have been targeted?
Now, we saw this from the other angle, and that's a longer cut. We don't need to play that one right now. But we saw this from a different angle, and it's very clear that Secretary Noem had just gotten up and started the press conference, and she's delivering her opening statement here, declaring what it is that Department of Homeland Security is doing, and she's going to get into some of the results after this. And that's important context to remember for what's going to come up from Alex Padilla in just a moment. Alex Padilla then tried to approach the dais while wearing a golf shirt, jeans, no Senate pin, apparently not having identified himself to anybody in the room, and wasn't expected to be there, while you have a cabinet official and some other officials on the dais. You got a strange guy walking up in the middle of a statement, which is weird. It's strange. And security reacts, I would say gently, moving him out of the room while he's spouting off about being a U.S. Senator. Now, of course, he does turn out to be a U.S. Senator, but I doubt very seriously that any of the people doing security in that room knew that. What he looked like was a crazy guy. And you can see a little bit more of this here. And he's not asking a question. He's trying to deliver a statement as they're pushing him out of the room, and then he gets angry and says, hands off, in this part of the clip. So then Alex Padilla holds a press conference, which he could have done right from the beginning, right? He could have waited until that press conference was over and then held a press conference to rebut whatever it was that Noem had to say. So he holds a press conference after getting hauled out of there. Here's what Alex Padilla had to say.
Over the course of recent weeks, several of my colleagues, have been asking the Department of Homeland Security for more information and more answers on their increasingly extreme immigration enforcement actions. And we've gotten little to no information in response to our inquiries. And so I came to the press conference to hear what she had to say, to see if I could learn any new additional information.
Wait right there for just a moment. We're going to stop here, and we're going to pause again in just a moment again, too. He came there to hear what she had to say. She had only just begun to start talking about what she had to say. She wasn't even done with her opening statement, and he was trying to interrupt it. He was coming up to the dais to interrupt her. He wasn't there to hear what she had to say. He was there to stop her from saying it. So continue on.
And at one point, I had a question. And let me emphasize, just as we've emphasized the right for people to peacefully protest and to stand up for their First Amendment rights, for our fundamental rights. I was there peacefully. At one point, I had a question. And so I began to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground, and I was handcuffed. I was not arrested. I was not detained.
Stop right there. All right. If you're on the ground and you're in handcuffs,
guess what?
Guess what? You're detained. That's what that means.
Fact check, false.
False. Dwayne, fact check, false. We should get Glenn Kessler on here to talk about it. No, we shouldn't. I'm just kidding.
Well,
fact check, false.
Yeah, then we'd never get to the bottom of things.
Right, exactly. Yes. If you're on the ground and your hands are behind you and you're wearing the steel bracelets, you're detained. You're not necessarily arrested. And he wasn't in the end. He was not arrested. And this is what happens when police are dealing with disorderly conduct, is that if somebody is not ending that disorderly conduct, they will put you in handcuffs until they can figure out what it is that's going on. And I have this addiction to YouTube videos that involve arrests. And oftentimes the police will say, hey, look, boss, these can come off just as quickly as they went on. We're just here to ensure our safety and yours while we conduct this investigation.
So when Padilla gave his little press conference afterwards, right, his little 2-minute address?
Yes.
You know who flanked him at the dais?
I would have mentioned security.
Security. Now,
Why? Because he's a senator. He's a U.S. senator. Yes, they should be.
What do you suppose would have happened if a crazy person started shouting at him while he was speaking and approached him at the dais? What do you suppose would have happened?
Exactly what happened in that room, although perhaps a little rougher.
Correct.
But I mean,
And for obvious reasons.
yeah, security reacted properly in this case. You don't. I mean, it's a strange thing to do, and he's absolutely lying through his teeth. He was not there to listen to what Noam had to say. He was there to interrupt Noam and to lecture Noam and to hijack the press conference. You know what it kind of reminds me of, Dwayne? I mean, I think you'll laugh about this. Remember Andrew Breitbart hijacking the press conference from
Yes.
Anthony Weiner?
Yes.
That's what this reminds me
Well,
of.
except Weiner wasn't at the microphone.
No, he wasn't.
there.
He hadn't showed up. That was the thing. This is years ago. Our late friend Andrew Breitbart was at that press conference where Carlos Danger was going to explain his
Right.
his rather racy picks, right?
And he was late to his own press conference for an hour, and everybody's looking around, and they all saw Breitbart there and said, "Hey, well, can we ask you some questions?" Sure. And so he got behind the microphone and gave his own press conference.
And it was a thing of beauty, but he didn't push anybody out of the way. There was literally
And
nobody
he
up
didn't
there.
approach anybody in a threatening manner in the process.
And Andrew wouldn't have done that. Andrew would have
Not
waited
his
until
style.
he would have waited until the Q&A, and then he would have ripped Anthony Weiner over that. Carlos Danger. This is nonsense. This is a PR stunt.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.